I'd like to invite the children to come up and join me at the steps. Grab a piece of rod or staff or something. Great. We've just heard the story about Jesus walking out of the temple with his disciples. I want to tell you a little bit about that temple, because it was quite amazing. This is the temple of the Jewish people in Jerusalem at the time that Jesus was living, about 2,000 years ago. It was humongous. The King Herod, had expanded into this big complex of buildings, and in the center of which was a courtyard, and there stood the temple with the Holy of Holies. It was sort of rectangular, square. And it was 9 stories tall. Now you have to remember, this is 2,000 years ago. But even today, right, you go downtown and look at a 9-story building, that's pretty tall. 9 stories. And Herod had wanted to be so magnificent that it was a wonder of the world, so he put big plates on the front of it that covered the entire front of the temple. What do you think the plates were made out of? How did you know that? Gold! They were pure gold, the whole front of the temple. And the temple faced east. So in the morning, when the sun would rise up over the hills across Jerusalem and hit that gold of the temple, people at the time said it was almost blinding. Writers back then said it was one of the marvels of the world. So this is where Jesus and his disciples were. And the stones that they used were huge. I've seen some of them in Jerusalem underground that they made to build it. It was as big as this whole step here, 1 stone and tall. So they're coming out, and his disciples said, "Look, teacher, look at these great buildings. Isn't this awesome?" I'm sure that's what they said. And then Jesus sort of burst their bubble, doesn't he? Because he says, "Well, yeah, look around at these buildings." He said, "You know what? Time's coming when not 1 stone will be left on another." I think that probably stopped the conversation, don't you? Because they couldn't imagine that. That was their whole identity as a people. And to think that was gone meant their whole nation was gone. And, you know, this month we're studying the second of Jesus' Beatitudes. It says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." And oftentimes we think of people who mourn as like when we lose somebody to death and we mourn their passing. But we can also mourn things that we love and experiences that we love. We can mourn friends that move away. So there are a lot of things to mourn, and the thought of this, losing this temple, caused them to mourn. And I'd like you to do a little exercise with me. Let's all close our eyes, because when you close your eyes, it's almost like you've been there before, wherever we're thinking about, even though you may not have. And I want you to picture that temple, that beautiful, humongous temple covered in gold. And now picture what actually did happen some 40 years after Jesus made his prophecy. Picture the Roman army coming in and completely leveling the temple, stripping the gold plates off of the front, smashing the stone altars, lighting the wood on fire, and destroying the entire place until not 1 stone was left on another. And now, with your eyes closed, picture what your feelings would have been had you been standing there on a hill watching. Do you feel anger, or fear, or sadness, emptiness? What are your feelings? And then with our eyes still closed, let's spring forward to our own lives. And think about something in our life that we have had to let go of, to say goodbye to. It could have been a family member or loved one that died, or a pet. It could have been a friend that moved away. It could have been a toy, a favorite toy that was lost. If you're a little older, it could have been a job that you loved and was lost. It could be the ability to do things that we used to be able to do and we've had to let that go. Think about the emotions you had when that happened. Were they the same? Were they different? Now let's open our eyes. My guess is that some of the same emotions would have arisen. Maybe a little bit of all of them. Tears, anger, sadness, fear, not knowing what's going to happen. Because Jesus is teaching his disciples a very hard lesson. He's saying that all through life, time and again, we're going to have to let go of things. And it's never fun. It's always painful. It's hard, isn't it? And he says this is the way it's going to be till the end of time, when we have to let go of everything. They were asking, what are the signs of this? And I don't know about you, but it sounds like sort of a downer to me, doesn't it? That we have to, it's not just once, it's time and time again. So what's the good news? Because we always say that Jesus preaches good news to us. Well, I think there is some good news, but just on hearing it, we have to say, what is it? How am I going to be an optimist about this? Do you know what an optimist is? What's an optimist? Looks for the positive, right? Looks for the best in things. And I think Jesus was an optimist about this. Because he says something to his disciples and say, how are we going to know when all this terrible stuff is going to happen? The walls are going to keep coming down, the sun is going to roll over the hills, and great darkness will come from above. How are we going to find good news about this? And Jesus says something in the last sentence of that gospel reading. I like somebody out there that has a bulletin. He says, yeah, all these terrible things are going to happen. Darkness will come from above. Walls will come tumbling down. He says, but this is the beginning of what?
Birth pangs.
Birth pangs. Pangs are like pains. Same thing. Pains. When a woman gives birth, I've never experienced it, but I'm told it's very, very painful, or can be. There can be a lot of tears. There can be screaming. It's a painful process. When you were born, it may have been very, very painful for your mom. But then, all of a sudden, there's this new life that she's holding in her hands. And all that pain is forgotten. And there's just pure joy. And that's what Jesus compares to all these things that happen around us. Yes, they're painful. It's hard to let go of things. And yet, God is always bringing something to birth when these things happen. So, for me, today, the good news that we hear is that no matter what's happening in life, no matter what walls are tumbling down, no matter what darkness it is, no matter who I have to say goodbye to, what I have to let go of, that I can always keep my eyes open for something new that God is bringing to birth. And that is great news. So let's continue in our worship to celebrate this God who gives us strength even in the dark times.